The factory that moved at 50 miles per hour. Lorraine, September 1944. September 18, 1944. General Hasso von Manteuffel stood inside his forward command post near the German border, staring down at a map spread across a rough wooden table. For the first time in months, that map offered something the German army had nearly forgotten how to recognize: opportunity, possibly even victory. Manteuffel was 51 years old. He was not a fanatic. He did not rant about destiny or racial purity. He did not quote Hitler or cling to fantasy. He was a professional soldier, cold, analytical, and deeply experienced. He had fought on the Eastern Front, where entire armies vanished into snow and mud. He had fought in North Africa, where maneuver warfare was decided by speed, fuel, and nerve. He understood how wars were lost long before they were officially surrendered. And on this morning, he believed he still held a winning hand. Under his command stood the 113th Panzer Brigade, not the shattered remnants of divisions that had crawled out of Normandy, patched together with teenagers and prayers. This was something different, something new. Hitler's answer to collapse. A fire brigade. Fresh formations rushed straight from German factories to the front. The tanks were so new that paint still gleamed on their hulls. Some crews were still learning how to synchronize turret rotation with gun elevation. These men had not been worn down by months of retreat. They had not yet learned how quickly the Western Front could kill optimism. The brigade was equipped with 58 brand new Panthers, the most lethal armored vehicle on the Western Front. Manteuffel ran the numbers in his head with cold precision. The American Sherman tank was reliable, easy to maintain, mechanically forgiving, but it was still a medium tank, armed mostly with a 75mm gun that struggled against modern German armor. Its frontal plate could be penetrated by a Panther at 2,000 meters. Meanwhile, the Panther's sloped glacis armor could deflect American rounds like stones skipping across water. The Panther's long-barreled 75mm gun could kill a Sherman from distances where the American gun was simply ineffective. By the logic of armored warfare as it had existed for decades, this was not a fair fight. Then came fuel. The 113th Panzer Brigade had been allocated 600,000 liters of gasoline, enough for 2 days of intensive combat operations. 2 days. That was all Manteuffel needed. His objective was elegant in its simplicity: strike the exposed right flank of General George S. Patton's Fourth Army. Patton was advancing fast, too fast. His supply lines stretched over 400 kilometers. His armored spearheads were scattered across nearly 180 kilometers of front. His formations were extended, exposed, and hungry for fuel. Manteuffel intended to concentrate his Panthers, smash directly into the American 4th Armored Division, sever Patton's spearheads, and destroy them piece by piece. If successful, the attack would create a crisis large enough to halt the American advance entirely. By every conventional rule of warfare, this plan should have worked. German armor was superior, German forces were concentrated, surprise was complete. The Americans had no idea a fresh Panzer Brigade was assembling in the fog-shrouded forests of Lorraine. But Manteuffel was calculating with 1940 logic in 1944 war. He believed armored battles were decided by armor thickness and gun caliber. He did not yet understand that he was walking into a trap built from 3 things the German military still could not fully comprehend: speed, communication, and industrial mathematics. September 19th, 0730 hours. As dawn broke, the lead elements of the 113th Panzer Brigade began their approach march toward their assembly areas. Then the fog came. Not mist, not haze, a living wall. It rolled across the Lorraine fields like a physical force. Visibility collapsed to 50 yards, then 30. Tank commanders leaned forward in their cupolas, squinting through periscopes that showed nothing but gray emptiness. drivers struggled to keep formation, barely being able to see the tank ahead of them. Manteuffel's greatest advantage, the Panthers' long-range killing power, evaporated instantly. A 2-kilometer kill shot requires sight. These Panthers couldn't see 50 meters. The fire brigade was blind. American headquarters, 15 kilometers away. Colonel Bruce Clark, commanding Combat Command A of the 4th Armored Division, received the first reports. Heavy engine noise, large formations, moving west. Clark didn't command heavy tanks. What he had was the 37th Tank Battalion, led by Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, a name that would one day define American armored warfare. Abrams did not panic. He immediately understood what the fog meant. If the Germans couldn't see at long range, their superior guns were useless. This wasn't going to be a duel. It was going to be a knife in a phone booth. Speed and reaction time would decide everything. The first shots. The German column advanced through the mist, engines roaring, tracks clanking, commanders hunched in their cupolas. They expected to roll through American pickets and explode into the rear areas. Instead, the lead Panther erupted in flame. Its turret blew outward like a thrown lid. Then the second Panther burned, then the third. Confusion spread instantly. German radio discipline collapsed. Tank commanders slewed their turrets left and right, searching for muzzle flashes that did not exist. Shots slammed into their flanks, punching through thinner side armor where even Panther steel could not save them. Enemy left. No, enemy right. Where is the enemy? Commanders popped hatches to see through the fog and were cut down by machine gun fire from invisible positions. The Germans believed they had struck a wall of American heavy tanks. They were wrong. They had walked into a swarm. Enter the M18 Hellcat. To a German tanker, the M18 Hellcat looked like a joke. Paper-thin armor, open-topped turret, vulnerable to machine gun fire. A vehicle that violated every principle of German armored design. By Wehrmacht standards, it was a death trap. But the Hellcat had one statistic Manteuffel never factored into his calculations: power-to-weight ratio. 17 tons, 350 horsepower, a radial aircraft engine, the same type used in American fighter planes. Top speed, 55 miles per hour. No Panther could match it, no Tiger, no T-34. The Hellcat could relocate faster than a Panther could rotate its turret. In the fog of Lorraine, speed became the ultimate weapon. German Panthers advanced in rigid formations, designed for mutual support, but coordinated tactics require visibility in communication. The fog destroyed both. The Americans fought differently. Hellcats operated like wolves, independent hunters, coordinated by radio, not proximity. The pattern repeated again and again. Hellcats listened to approaching engines, drivers raced to flank positions, crews waited in silence as Panthers rolled past. Then, 2 rounds punched through side armor. Before the Panther could respond, the Hellcat was gone, reversing at full throttle, relocating hundreds of yards away, already hunting the next target. This was not bravery, it was systems warfare. When the fog lifted. By noon, sunlight began to burn away the mist. Manteuffel ordered his commanders forward, push through, the Americans cannot be everywhere. But as visibility returned, the second half of the American trap snapped shut. Above the battlefield, small aircraft appeared, Piper Cubs, observation planes, the eyes of American artillery. Time on target. German artillery fired sequentially, American artillery fired mathematically. The American Fire Direction Center calculated flight times for dozens of guns, spread miles apart. Each battery fired at a different moment, but every shell arrived at the exact same second. No ranging shots, no warning. When the shells arrived, the sky detonated. Airburst explosions ripped through German infantry riding on the tanks. Shrapnel shredded men, radios, antennas, command networks. Panthers survived the blast, but lost their eyes, ears, and infantry support. A blind tank without infantry is already dead. The brigade was no longer fighting a battle, it was being processed. Fuel, recovery, and reality. By the third day, the most shocking sight was not burning Panthers, it was silent ones, out of fuel. Germany built the most sophisticated tank in the war and could not fuel it for 20 kilometers. When Americans ran out of fuel, tanks waited. When Germans ran out of fuel, tanks were abandoned. American recovery crews towed damaged vehicles under fire. Mobile depots replaced engines in fields. Tanks knocked out in the morning, returned by evening. German tanks were cannibalized or destroyed by their own crews. The final accounting. The 113th Panzer Brigade entered combat with 58 Panthers.